The first conference I ever went to, I remember thinking, we need to hear more from people who know how to run businesses.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out, sporting a beard. What do you think? Sponsored by a couple of great companies, of course. TrueTrax. TrueTrax is what appraisers are using to support their adjustments, including the non-linear time adjustments. Check them out by going to truefootage.tech. Truefootage.tech to learn more about TrueTrax. And of course, OREP Insurance. OREP is my E&O of choice, should be yours as well. Why? Because they offer more than anybody else. It's that simple. OREP.org is where you learn more. OREP.org. Well, folks, I am writing what can only be described as a spiritual high. As I record this, I'm about a week out of being back from the Elevate Appraiser Retreat, the Elevate Appraiser Retreat, TEAR for short, TEAR, the Elevate Appraiser Retreat. It's the first retreat ever that I know of. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but I don't think there's ever been anything like this. This was not a conference. This was not a class. This was not your typical appraiser get-together bitch and moan session. In fact, quite the opposite. Absolutely incredible 3 days in beautiful Coarsegold, California. Shout out to my good friend, Mr. Jason Fishman, who provided his beautiful home there in Coarsegold. Sits up on a hill overlooking. You can see Fresno in the far distant, just light up at night. But this beautiful valley, folks. Imagine this. This is a ranch-style home that you drive up to in the middle of nowhere, out of about 45 minutes out of Fresno, about 45 minutes from Yosemite National Park, in a beautiful area of California. And you walk into this home, and it is absolutely stunning. There is no other way to describe it. Absolutely beautiful, inside and out. They have spared no expense. And I won the prize, by the way, of knowing what the countertop was. I looked. I said, "What is this? Concrete?" And Anna, wonderful host, Jason's wife, said, "You're the first person that's got that right." Beautiful home. Fireplace, the entire wall on the backside opens up, flows out into this patio with hot tub and pool and 2 fire pits, overlooking 20 acres, overlooking the valley, overlooking the most beautiful scenery you can ever imagine. Folks, it was the absolute perfect setting for this type of thing. When we say retreat, folks, there was no classroom at all. The classroom was nature, and it was beautiful. We did a combination of events outside on the patio, around the fire, inside in the living room, the dining area, the kitchen area. We went to a game room that was absolutely beautiful, the big smart TV, and I can't say enough about the setting. So Jason, Anna, thank you for providing your place. It was absolutely beautiful. And just a wonderful place to be. If you're interested, by the way, in going to that area for this type of thing, or really any type of thing, please reach out to me, the coach at TheAppraiserCoach.com. I would love to give you the link, the Airbnb link for Jason's place. But folks, this retreat has been coming for a very long time. In fact, I dare say one of the first things that I told the group there, by the way, there was about 15 appraisers. Very intimate setting. We got to know each other very, very well, inside and out of our goals, our thought processes. I'm not exaggerating when I say tears were shed. Like, there were times that people choked up because they got so vulnerable with their lives, their businesses, their aspirations, their goals, their setbacks, their difficulties. One individual talking about a battle with cancer, others talking about deaths in the family and major changes in their career. If I could really boil down one theme, it was probably the word why. In fact, the book that we read as a group, pre-homework, if you will, was Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Kind of put us on the path for why are we doing what we're doing? What changes are coming to the appraisal industry? But folks, this was not about appraisal. In fact, we had a pejorative swear jar that anytime an appraisal or Fannie Mae or USPAP was mentioned, that you'd have to put $1 in the jar. By the way, I put more money in than anybody else, but nonetheless, this was not your typical appraisal class. This was really an event about becoming better, becoming a better wife, a better husband, a better father, a better mother, a better son, a better daughter, a better aunt, a better uncle, a better nephew, a better person, a better neighbor, a better friend. It was about becoming better. And it was, I will tell you this, folks, as one of the moderators, I think I learned as much as anybody in that room about who I am, who I want to be, and some changes I made. In fact, I started on a path of new goals and habits, and some of the old habits that I'd let go that I picked back up. One of the events, I'll give you an example. One of the events we had one of the evenings. So we would have an all day, I mean, literally from sun up to sundown. One morning we had a Tai Chi session as the sun was coming up over the hill, and it was a beautiful sunrise. And I've never done Tai Chi, but now I can say I have. And we would break for dinner, and then we would come back as an optional around the fire exercise. And one of the exercises was what we called a delete session. And the delete session was you choose something in your life that's holding you back and get rid of it. And folks, I deleted something as well. And I want to say I've followed through. Now it's only been a week. Okay. But I followed through on what I decided to delete out of my life. And it's changed my life for the better. And that was what this retreat was all about. I want to go into a little bit more detail and give some shout outs to a couple of individuals. But first, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP, folks, is owned and operated by individuals who get it, who really understand what appraisal is all about, what the risks involved with appraisals are, because they've been through it. They've literally been through, well, not literally, but they didn't actually have mud on their face, but they've been through the mud when it comes to appraisal issues, and they are there to support you. Folks, if you're with any other E&O, take a good hard look at why, there's that word again, and ask yourself, could you do better with OREP? I'm going to answer for you. You can. OREP.org, OREP.org. And TrueTracks, folks, we as appraisers are always looking for how do we support what we do in our reports? How do we do the things that we're supposed to do? How do we become better appraisers? And there's some tools out there, many tools on the market. There is nothing better, in my opinion, right now, than a program called TrueTracks. TrueTracks, it's by True Footage. You can find out more by going to truefootage.tech. As of this recording, it's free. Now, by the time this airs, it may not be. I don't know. I don't care what they ask. The value's there, folks. TrueTracks, and it's by truefootage.tech. All right, folks, welcome back. Sorry for the one camera angle. I might just go to this in the future. I've tried the various angles, and honestly, I've had so much technical issues that I may just go back to the one camera thing. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I would love to hear from you, what you prefer. Many of you just listen to this on audio, and that's fine too. But welcome back. We're talking about the TARE retreat, the Elevate Appraiser retreat. Not a conference, not a class, but a retreat. Folks, I mentioned in the beginning of the program that this has been coming for a very long time. In the beginning of the retreat, I told everyone there that I have wanted to do something like this almost from the beginning of the Appraiser Coach. The Appraiser Coach started in 2010, and about 2011 and 2012, within the first 2 years of starting the Appraiser Coach company, I went to a conference. It may have been my first one. And I don't want to disparage the conferences out there because they are what they are. Conferences are conferences, right? Imagine you're a big hall, 300 plus people, vendors out there, box lunches, networking. They're great for what they are. And I want to stress for what they are. This was not that. The first conference I ever went to, I remember thinking, we need to hear more from people who know how to run businesses. These are all about regulations and UAD and USPAP, and FBI is going to come at you because you're all committing fraud. And it can be a little bit negative, honestly. And it can be a little bit repetitive. Sometimes the same speakers over and over and over again. And I get it. You're there for CE. It has to be a certain way. But from the very beginning, I thought, you know what would really be fun is to learn how to run a successful business and how to make more money and spend less time in your business and be more efficient. And you just don't get that too much at these conferences. And so a consequence, I thought it would be awesome to have my own quote unquote conference. Okay, that's what was in my head. And it took a while for that idea to culminate into, no, we don't need to do a conference. We don't even need to do a class. We definitely don't need to do CE. What appraisers need, and when I say appraisers, I mean top 2%, okay? Those of you who listen to this program, that's the type of appraiser we're looking for. Not average Joe in his appraiser cave, appraisersaurus, head down, picking comps. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are true business owners and success-oriented people. What we need is a retreat. Now, along on the scene comes Mr. Blaine Feyen, who I keep telling Blaine he needs to do the Myers-Briggs analysis. I would love to find out what his Myers-Briggs is because I almost guess that if we're not identical, we're one letter off. And I learned that at this retreat that he and I have a very similar way of thinking. We live by certain principles that are very similar. We have certain goals. We have a little bit different backgrounds, but not really. We both have and have run successful appraisal offices. We both worked for True Footage for a while. We both are outspoken in our opinions. And I learned that I found an individual. Now, I've always liked Blaine, and I've always considered him a friend from the very beginning. When he started his podcast, I reached out to him and said, kudos to you, my friend. And if there's anything I can do to help you be successful, I would love to be. And he did the same for me. Absolute wonderful gentleman. But it wasn't until the retreat that I realized that I had found a soulmate, really. I mean, I know that's, if you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, I'm not talking about sitting in the hot tub with your soulmate, but a guy who thinks like me, a guy who teaches like me, a guy who is easy to hang out with, and his wonderful partner, love her to death as well. It was so fun to be there with my wife and his partner and just spending time together. It was absolutely wonderful. So thank you, Blaine, for what you brought to the retreat. And a special shout out to our good friend, Mr. Roy Meyer. Many of you know Roy. Roy and I go a long way. In fact, we were at the retreat one evening just saying, how long have we known each other? And it literally has been pretty much as long as the Appraiser Coach has been in business. So about 15 years, Roy and I have known each other. He's the one that pushed me to get my first VA, 9-10 years ago. He literally wrote the book on VA for appraisers. And of course, lately he has really gone down the proverbial rabbit hole when it comes to AI. And he came to the retreat and was there with his son, Cody, and taught us about 4 to 5 hours of really deep detail on how to use AI. Some of it general, how to use AI in your life, in your family, your health, your research, your learning, your education, but also how to use AI in both business development for appraisal and appraisal itself. And went through various models, introduced me to Manus, reintroduced me to some of the other models that I had played with and kind of put aside, really went deep into ChatGPT. But folks, this is something that Roy did out of the goodness of his heart. He was not paid to be there. He came because that's the type of guy he is. And folks, if you're not following Roy Meyer right now, you are missing the boat. You need to look him up. He is all over social media. You won't have a hard time finding him. And you need to sign up for classes, and you need to get involved in the stuff that he's doing, because I'm telling you, folks, it changes the way that you do business, and it will become more and more important as time progresses. And that became very relevant as we sat with him and he on the smart TV in front of us with 15 appraisers in one room asking questions, and him going through exercises and putting in prompts and showing us how to do this and showing us how to do that. I came away with a new respect for AI. And by the way, folks, I am not a babe, a greenie when it comes to AI. I'm spending hours a day on it. And I came away from that experience thinking, holy smokes, I've got a lot to learn. And it's fun and it's exciting. So thank you, Blaine. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone that came to the Elevate Appraiser Retreat. I am absolutely on cloud nine. The one thing, if nothing else, that came out of this, and this was a question mark for both Blaine and I said, is this going to be successful with appraisers? And can I just speak blunt? Of course I can speak bluntly. It's my program. I'm going to speak bluntly for just a second. Folks, there are 40,000 plus appraisers out there, at least according to, various statistics. 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. There's tens of thousands of appraisers out there. There's 15 appraisers, not even that, less than 15 appraisers at this retreat. What does that tell you? Now, I don't think that every person that gets it could actually have attended. I get that. In fact, I had several reach out to me saying, Dustin, if I didn't have a wedding, I would be there. If I didn't have this vacation already planned, I would be there. If I didn't have this major obstacle, I would be there. And I believe that. But I would say, by and large, folks, we're talking about the top 1 or 2% of appraisers, literally, who get it, who understand that they will pay money and spend time to go to something like this and fully understand the value that they receive. One of the things that Blaine and I decided right up front, because this is such a new thing, never happened before, that right up front we said, guess what? Full money back, 100% guarantee the first day. Not after 3 days of a conference. You will receive more value from this conference in the first 24 hours than you have ever put in time and money to get there. Guess how many people asked for their money back after the first day? Of course, you know the answer to that. In fact, 2 people during the conference said out loud, I received more value from this experience before I even arrived. We had some pre-retreat activities that we completed online. And 2 individuals said, I received more value from those pre-retreat activities. And then I came here and holy smokes, like waterfall. I tell you that, folks, because this was the first. It will not be the last Elevate Retreat. We will be having this in the future. We don't know the times. We don't know the places. But it will happen, and it will happen, mark my words, in the next year. Before 12 months expires, we will have another Elevate Retreat. It will be in a wonderful setting, and it will be another group of individuals, maybe some of the same people, maybe different people. It will be different content, some of it similar, but it will be that little kick in the ass that you need, right? To be the person that you need to be. And that was the big question in Blaine and I's mind is, let's try this. Let's have an experiment. Let's see how it goes. and then go from there. And I can tell you, folks, that there was no doubt after the first day, both Blaine and I said, this is happening again. So watch the socials, watch my blog, TheAppraiserCoach.com, sign up for, the regular updates. Listen to this podcast. I promise you this is coming again, and you do not want to miss the next Elevate Appraiser retreat. We will let you know when that is. Thank you for joining me today, folks, and thanks for being there. Thank you for creating so much value for appraisers out there and for everyone. It's always good to be with you. It really is. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being there, and we'll talk soon. Go create some value.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit TheAppraiserCoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.